All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible and audacious battles of World War II. It was a battle of firsts, for sure. We're talking about the largest airborne invasion in history, the very first time an entire island was conquered straight from the sky, but it was also a battle of lasts. And honestly, that's what makes this story so unbelievably fascinating.
I want you to just try and picture this. It's the morning of May 20th, 1941. You're on the sunny Greek island of Crete. You look up and the sky, well, it isn't filled with birds. It's packed with hundreds of Junkers Ju-52 transport planes. And then the sky just blossoms with thousands upon thousands of parachutes. And these aren't just any soldiers, no, these are the Fallschirmjäger, the absolute elite paratroopers of the German war machine, and they are coming down to take the island.
And right here, this is the central puzzle of the whole thing. The Germans won. They took Crete. On paper, it was a stunning, brilliant success. So why did this incredible victory effectively destroy their most innovative and feared weapon? Why, after this battle, did Hitler himself say, nope, we're done. The days of the big airborne assault are over? That is the question we are going to unpack.
Okay, so the German plan had a code name, Operation Mercury. And the goal was just breathtakingly audacious. Take an entire heavily defended island, not with a massive navy, but with thousands of men dropped out of the sky. Seriously, nothing like this had ever even been attempted on this scale before.
Now, to pull something like this off, Germany was betting the farm on its absolute best troops. You gotta understand, the Fallschirmjägers, these guys were the special forces of their day. They were the tip of the spear in the Blitzkrieg across Europe, grabbing key bridges and fortresses that everyone else thought were impossible to take. They were tough, experienced, and just incredibly effective. And for Operation Mercury, Germany was risking every single one of them.
So why Crete? Why was this one little island in the middle of the Mediterranean so important that Germany would risk its elite forces and the Allies would fight to the bitter end to defend it? Well, it all comes down to location, location, location.
Each side had a completely different vision for this island. For the Allies, Crete was like a dagger pointed right at the Axis' flank, threatening their crucial oil supplies in Romania. But for Germany, it was a shield. They had to secure their southern flank before they launched their massive invasion of the Soviet Union, and they saw Crete as a kind of unsinkable aircraft carrier that would let them control the entire eastern Mediterranean. You can see the stakes just could not have been higher.
Okay, so the invasion starts. Thousands of paratroopers are landing. You'd think the defenders would be totally overwhelmed, right? Wrong. The first day of the battle was an absolute unmitigated catastrophe for the Germans. The Allied forces who had detailed intelligence about the invasion plans were dug in and waiting for them. Let this number sink in for a second. In just one of the key landing zones, near the vital Maleme airfield, a single German battalion of 600 men had 400 of them killed by the end of the first day. Just gone. The losses were staggering everywhere. These elite Fallschirmjäger were being chewed up and spit out as they landed. By that evening, the Allied commanders were feeling pretty good. They genuinely believed they were about to win a major victory.
So, the big question is, how did it all go so wrong for the Allies? Well, this timeline tells the story of a battle that got flipped on its head in just 24 hours. The key was a place called Hill 107, which overlooked Maleme Airfield. On that second day, because of a series of communication breakdowns, the New Zealand defenders mistakenly believed their position couldn't be held, so they withdrew from the hill overnight. And that was a fatal error. The Germans immediately seized the empty hill, which gave them control of the airfield, and then the floodgates just opened. They started flying in thousands of heavily armed mountain troops, and the tide of the battle turned, this time for good.
The Germans now had their foothold, and they would go on to win the battle. But that victory? It came at a price so brutally high it would fundamentally change German military strategy for the rest of the entire war.
While all this was happening on land, another furious battle was erupting out at sea. The German Luftwaffe was just relentlessly pounding the Royal Navy. 2 cruisers sunk by air attack alone.
And the losses just kept mounting. 4 destroyers were sent to the bottom of the Mediterranean. For the Royal Navy, the Battle of Crete became the single costliest naval engagement of the whole war.
But the most significant cost, the one that really stung Germany, was in human lives. Roughly 4,000 of their elite paratroopers were either killed or went missing. And these weren't just random conscripts. These were the best of the best, veterans of multiple campaigns. Their combat experience, their specialized skills, they were simply irreplaceable.
This table really shows you the total butcher's bill. Now, you'll see the Allied casualties were numerically higher, but that's mostly due to the huge number of prisoners taken. The German losses, though, were qualitatively devastating. In just over a week of fighting, their elite Fallschirmjäger force had been bled completely white.
And that brings us to the final, and frankly, the most ironic part of this whole story. The Battle of Crete was over, but its legacy was just getting started. And what's incredible is that the victors and the losers learned completely opposite lessons from the fight.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's wild. Hitler was so completely shocked by the casualty lists from Crete that he decided that paratrooper as a strategic weapon was finished. The element of surprise was gone, he figured, and the price was just too high. So his elite Fallschirmjäger spent the rest of the war fighting as regular ground troops. Meanwhile, the Allies looked at the exact same battle and saw the complete opposite. They saw that even against prepared defenses, an airborne force could take an entire island. They were so impressed that they immediately started a massive expansion of their own airborne divisions, creating the legendary units like the 82nd and 101st that would later drop into Normandy and Holland.
This quote from Hitler himself really says it all. For the Germans, the victory on Crete felt like a massive defeat. Sure, they won the island, but they sacrificed their most powerful and innovative offensive weapon to do it.
The Battle of Crete is just such a stark reminder that a military victory can be so costly it actually changes the entire course of a war. And it leaves us with this huge what-if question, doesn't it? What if Hitler had learned a different lesson? Just imagine for a second, thousands of German paratroopers dropping on Malta, or the Suez Canal, or deep behind Soviet lines. History could have looked very, very different.